Okay, so as promised, here are a couple of examples of the application of the business model canvas. So in the last video, we talked about this business model canvas, and now we'll look at it in terms of what that means, in a couple of different environments. So I mentioned a couple of times the low-cost airline example. So we'll just develop that here. And if you think about it, the low-cost airline is the value proposition is going to be safe, reliable air transportation at low cost. Well, we assume safe and reliable. Sometimes you look at some of these new models and they might have dropped out some of the safe and the reliable, and they're just working on air transportation. But when I wrote this, I was thinking of Southwest, and Southwest is very much focused on safe and reliable, and they want to provide that safe, reliable air transportation at a low cost. And they do that for customers who want the lowest cost air travel and not looking for frills. And that can be anybody. It can be families going up to visit people. It can be business people who just want the ease of getting on a plane and getting off a plane, and without a lot of the window dressing that sort of comes along with the big airlines. So different customers may be in different places at different times in their life. There was a time in my life where I always flew Southwest from LA to Sacramento to visit my parents, but when we flew internationally, I always wanted to be in business class and be treated really well, right? And that's fine. Different segments at different times in their lives. So then there's a customer relationship part. So how does a low-cost airline manage customer relationships? Well, it's primarily going to be transactional. They're not going to spend a lot of time developing relationships because they just can't afford it. That's not their business model. It's not hold your hand, safe, reliable air transportation. It's safe, reliable, low cost, and that's what's so important here. They also offer simple rewards for repeat purchases, right? So they have a rewards program. If you think of Southwest here, they have a rewards program, but it's a simple, well understood rewards program. Not lots of frills, and there's not a lot of bumping up to first class because they don't have a lot of first class to bump you up to. Channels this is an interesting one, particularly for Southwest, because when they started, it was really this self-service concept, and they didn't even offer their tickets through the ticketing agencies because they didn't want to pay those fees. So they were primarily web and self-service. They still are, secondarily telephone, and no in-person or agency sales. That just didn't exist for them. So their channels were inexpensive mass channels, and that was a conscious decision on behalf of the airline to do that in order to provide safe, reliable air transportation at low cost. Revenue was tickets, or is the tickets, so they get fees for tickets, they charge for additional services, and they have bag fees and all that kind of thing. And then they may charge, I'm not sure if that's the case now, but they may eventually charge for entertainment or in-air internet charges or other things to generate revenue along the lines, right? And that's really how Southwest works. If you think about this in terms of a big airline, other airlines are going to charge for food on the flights, or they're going to have upgrades. And Southwest doesn't really have a lot of that. They're really focused on that core mission of safe, reliable air transportation at low cost. So then think about, all right, what do they need to do to deliver that? Well, obviously their key partners are airline manufacturers, airports, in-air service providers, right? So these are the partners that they have to work with. And their key activities are to fly planes, essentially. And one of their differentiating factors at Southwest was quick turnarounds at the airport. So they had some extra capability around turning around planes very, very quickly at the airport. And you could say, since their channels were primarily web and self-service, there might even be a key activity here around selling tickets and engaging with customers that wouldn't necessarily have been a big deal for mainstream airlines when Southwest got started. So then we think about the key resources. Well, what do they need to deliver? They need aircraft, they need pilots, they need support staff, right? Those are the key resources, and perhaps also fuel, perhaps also some of these other things, but really to deliver aircraft, pilots, and support staff. And then their cost structure is pretty complicated. So they have operating planes, they have fuel, they have people, they have maintenance, they have direct sales channels and marketing, and they significantly, if you look specifically at Southwest, reduce costs through standardization. So they flew one type of plane, not multiple types, one type, so that they had all of the mechanics there for that one type of plane. They were very good about hedging fuel costs and managing that to make it predictable and understandable, because those were all things that played into this safe, reliable air transportation. And at one point, there's this story that the CEO used to like to tell about, being the low fare leader, and he'd say, when you're committed to that, if somebody comes up to you, and he used to talk about Tracy in marketing, if Tracy in marketing comes up to you and says, well, I think that people would like a chicken salad on the route from Houston to Las Vegas, then the question you have to ask them is, or you have to ask Tracy, is how is this making us a low-cost airline? And if it is contributing to that vision, then you go for it. If it's not contributing to that vision, if it's not contributing to that value proposition, then you don't. And that's partly how the business model really guides thinking in what you do and what you're going to do going forward.